Hi everyone, this is Lecture 6, Consequences of Animal Invasions. Invasive alien animal species are of not just local, but of global concern due to the consequences and their impacts. These include displacement and extinction of native and endemic species, introduction of pathogens, ecosystem modification, economic losses, and expenses for control costs. In this study, Ascidian tunicates frequently display rapid expansion when introduced beyond their native range and are considered successful invaders. This study investigated the impact of invasive tunicates on the maintenance of pathogens that affect commercial bivalves, including the cultured species, the European flat oyster, Pacific oyster, and the common cockle. The results indicate that tunicates can act as reservoirs of infection in areas where disease occurs and potentially transport diseases to uninfected sites. Commensal rodents, which have been one of the most invasive alien animal species that cause economic losses due to decreased crop yield, especially rice, are also reservoirs of diseases like leptospirosis. The main route of contamination is through the indirect contact with infected urine. During rainy seasons when flooding is common, we usually hear in the news about leptospirosis infections. In July 2018, there was an outbreak declared in Metro Manila. This table shows how invasive herbivore species modify ecosystems by causing plant mortalities. Gypsy moth larvae are voracious foliage eaters and later affects soil organic matter dynamics. The woolly adelgid feeds by sucking sap from the hemlock, which eventually leads to death 4 to 10 years after infestation. Hemlock replacement by other species stimulates nutrient cycling rapidly, impacting the carbon cycle in hemlock tree stands. Replacement of or decline in understory vegetation caused by deer also alters nutrient cycling and the soil food web. The beaver, aside from changing water hydrology and nutrient cycling, also transforms forests into meadows. The herbivorous rabbitfish reduces habitat complexity and species richness and also alters food webs. For introduced predators, the yellow crazy ant caused the reduction of red crab populations, increased tree seedling density, and reduction of litter decomposition. Rats and foxes feed on seabirds, thwarting nutrient transfer from ocean to land, as well as change soil fertility. Rainbow trout may increase algal biomass and decrease insect emergence and spider populations. The Nile perch predation on native fishes has also increased algal biomass. For underground invaders such as the root pathogenic fungi, they may cause massive tree deaths. Earthworms cause loss of organic matter, thereby affecting plant invasions, loss of native species, and altered soil invertebrate communities. The predatory flatworm depleted earthworm populations and reduced soil porosity and drainage. Invasive bivalves alter sediment chemistry, while the invasive isopod may reduce sediment stability. This shows that invasive alien species can alter nutrient inputs into ecosystems. And they can also alter nutrient losses from ecosystems. They affect losses through denitrification by altering microbial community structure, activity, and oxygen status of the environment. and indirectly alter water fluxes by imposing stress on plants and by changing species composition. Invasive alien animal species become novel foundation species, which then engineer changes to the physical environment. They also alter disturbance regimes and they alter food webs. Economic losses include loss in potential economic output, that is, losses in crop production and reductions in domesticated animal and fishery survival, fitness, and production. Direct cost of combating invasions, quarantine, control, and eradication. And also the costs of combating invasive species that are threats to human health, like, for example, direct agents of disease or as vectors or carriers of disease-causing parasites. In 2016, Hoffman and Broadhurst quantified the economic impact of invasive alien species, so this may be both plants and animals, in Australia, and this was estimated at $9.8 billion. In this study published in 2006 on the distribution and economic losses in China, they estimated direct economic losses to agriculture, forestry, stock breeding, fishery, road and water transportation, storage, water conservancy, environment and public facilities, and human health. Indirect economic losses were based on the causes to service functions of forest, agricultural, grassland, and wetland ecosystems. The total economic losses were estimated to be $14.45 billion during that time. And that was a long time ago, 2006. In the study of Blackburn et al. 2019, they found that alien species were considered to be a contributing cause of 25% of plant extinctions and 33% of animal extinctions. Of the 935 total recent extinctions, 261 of 782 animal species, or 33.4%, and 39 of 153 plant species, or 25.5%, had aliens listed as one of the extinction drivers. Alien species ranked first as a driver of animal extinctions, well ahead of the second-ranked driver, biological resource use, that is, hunting and harvesting. Due to their generalist diet and rooting behavior, feral pigs alter soils and watersheds and negatively impact native and non-native flora and fauna. As a result, feral pigs have played a role in the extinction of several species of plants and animals on Pacific Islands and have negative effects on both ecotourism and agricultural industries in the region. The brown tree snake accidentally arrived in Guam from Australia or New Guinea in military transport sometime following World War II. So this was in the last lecture. The snake's presence was not seen as a major threat to the island until the early 1980s, when densities of 100 snakes per hectare were recorded on certain parts of the island. Control efforts began soon after. Although densities have declined dramatically since then to an average of 10 to 20 snakes per hectare, damages persist in the form of power outages due to snakes on power lines, lost biodiversity, so 11 of 18 native forest birds, and medical visits resulting from snake bites, mostly to young children. In this study, they found that mass mortality of crocodiles due to cane toad ingestion has major repercussions for the conservation of Crocodylus johnstoni in upstream habitats in Australia. Cane toads may present an insidious threat to crocodile populations if they prevent recruitment into the adult population. Their results suggest that subadult crocodiles were particularly vulnerable to lethal toxic ingestion from eating cane toads. And with the exception of hatchlings, this size class showed the greatest decrease in abundance following the arrival of cane toads. Because freshwater crocodiles are slow growing, may live in excess of 50 years, and do not reach maturity until they are at least 12 years of age, it is possible that a large proportion of subadult crocodiles may be killed by toads before they reach the breeding age and thus affect the population. Invasive alien species are indeed a costly catastrophe for native biodiversity, and sometimes the impacts are irreversible. What are the impacts of the species you have chosen to study? Work on it for this week. Next week, we will proceed to the last topic, approaches to manage invasive alien animal species. Thank you for listening and have a productive week ahead.